welcome back to Swine Web Swine TV, up and comers in the pork industry, a conversation with Lauren Meier from Iowa Pork. Welcome to the program, Lauren.
Thanks for having me.
You met one of my colleagues, Rachel, a couple months ago, did a great video interview. We thought we would continue that, learn a little bit about your journey in the pork industry, your background, and what led you to your current role at Iowa Pork.
Yeah. So I didn't have the kind of normal background that most kids my age have to get into the industry. Neither of my parents had an ag background. I didn't grow up in the industry, but my dad moved into an old farmhouse when I was about 13, and we had an empty barn on our property, and I was like, all right, let's get to work, Dad. Let's put something in these barns. So I started with chickens. They're pretty easy. And then I moved on to goats. And by the time I graduated, we had about 50 chickens, 10 head of goats, and 3 horses. So kind of turned into a hobby farm. But that's really what sparked my interest in the ag industry and specifically animal science, which is where I'm at right now at Iowa State. I'm a junior in animal science with a minor in agricultural communications. So like I said, no swine background. Obviously, being at Iowa State and in the Midwest, it is very easy to get into the swine industry. There's just a lot of opportunity for it. Everyone seems to have had some sort of experience or background with the swine industry. So it didn't happen on purpose, but kind of just by chance, I kind of dove headfirst into the swine industry. So I started my freshman year. I had a week-long internship with Seaboard Foods in Oklahoma. That was a really cool opportunity to kind of see what all has to go into the pork industry to make it happen. Seaboard Foods does everything themselves, so that was also really interesting to kind of see all the moving parts of the swine industry. And then I interned at the Iowa State Fair where I did kind of our livestock contests. So I got a little bit of experience with the swine show world, and that was really interesting. And then last year, this most recent summer, I interned at Iowa Pork Producers Association for Hannah Spur and Pat McGonigal, and I was their communications and promotions intern. So that was a great experience to meet a lot of producers in the industry and get to know a lot of people.
So you have a broad spectrum of experience, even at such a young age. Now, there's challenges and opportunities in the pork industry. So from a younger generation perspective, what's your take on that and where do we need to go?
Yeah, so obviously right now there's a lot of disconnect from producers to consumers. Even if I'm not a producer myself, I know that there are people across the country, across the world that have no clue. They've never seen any side of production agriculture, and that's scary. That's kind of part of the reason there is such a disconnect between producers and consumers. And so I think the biggest challenge facing the industry today is definitely just getting that support from those consumers. Um, Obviously, we do have a lot of people that are in support of the industry, but with activist groups and whatever it may be, that makes it really hard to get that support. And obviously, with today's economy, that's also pushing a lot of challenges to producers today. So I think the biggest challenge right now facing the industry, especially from a younger generation, is just kind of seeing how little people are really know about the industry and what has to go into it to get this food on people's plates in the grocery stores. So I think educating younger generations from a very early start, um, whether it be putting ag classes in elementary schools or there are a lot of ideas, but the biggest thing is definitely needing to bridge the gap between consumers and producers right now to kind of gain that support from our consumers and kind of starting a new wave of educated consumers.
So where we stand today, Lauren, how do we continue to encourage and educate the next generation to be more involved?
Yeah, so like I said, I think it would be great. I know a lot of small Iowa towns have ag classes, but I don't think that's a normal thing across the country. So I think starting kind of ag, I know we have ag in the classroom and stuff like that, but it needs to be countrywide, nationwide. Um, because although it's in Iowa, the Iowa kids are not the ones who need educated on it because they are close to that production. So kind of our more urban areas in the country, I think definitely need that education because they're not close enough to get the knowledge and experience that most would. So getting that into the classroom and being able to learn about it at such a young age, I think would definitely help increase the support that producers have and also increase consumerism as they get older. I know my generation is the lowest consumer of pork that there is, and that's only going to keep getting lower. So I think we need to make a change in that right now so that it doesn't keep getting lower and we can continue to have knowledgeable and educated consumers.
So at Iowa Pork, what are you guys doing currently to address like issues like sustainability, animal welfare? And then how does that align with the future of the industry?
Yeah, so Iowa Pork does a lot. Honestly, since I did not have a swine industry background before I came to Iowa Pork, I really had no clue the amount of things and money and time they were putting into the industry to make it better. Um, so honestly, as far as sustainability and animal welfare, our producers are already doing that. Um, we trust our producers. We know that they're doing the right thing. Maybe that's not the case nationwide, but as far as Iowa, we have a really strong connection with all of our producers, and I think that's great because we can trust them to do the right thing. We know that they're going to treat their animals right, and we know that they have good morals, basically. We know that they're not gonna reflect on Iowa Pork poorly, so we kind of just leave it up to the producers. We know they're going to do the right thing. However, we do have plenty of awards each year to kind of reward those producers that are doing a great job. So we have our Master Pork Award, which is kind of just our big producers that we think are doing a great job. And then we also have our Environmental Steward Award. So that's more of the sustainability, animal welfare side. Um, Obviously, like I said, all of our producers do a great job of it, but we like to reward those producers every year. Um, and so it kind of just shows our trust in those producers and shows our appreciation for kind of reflecting on Iowa Pork and making sure that our producers are kind of showing a good side of the industry. And then we also have the We Care initiative. So that's our different focal points: food safety, animal well-being, public health, environment, our people, and our community. So we focus really heavily on that at Iowa Pork. We do a lot of social media campaigns with that. So we will interview different producers, different families in Iowa, and kind of show their story and what they're doing to be more sustainable within the industry and make sure that their animals are well taken care of. Um, and then we also provide assurance certifications and classes.
I think that's great with what you're doing with the producers, with the Master Pork Producer Award, celebrating achievement, showing sustainability, and telling the story, which is important. Um, Now, the Iowa Pork Congress is coming up in January, and this is your first time that you're going to be a part of it. What are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, so obviously I've never been a part of it. I've never been to it. So I'm honestly really excited to see kind of all the moving parts that have to go into it to be able to put this event on. Obviously, it's a super important event for our producers, our consumers, and it's honestly a really great education perspective because we do bring in a lot of speakers, a lot of industry professionals to educate our producers, um, and kind of just bring those new ideas and initiatives into the industry. Obviously, it's our job as agricultural communicators to kind of um, pass those new initiatives and new kind of just strategies along to our producers because our producers aren't the ones on the research side. They're just the ones carrying it out. So I think Iowa Pork is a great way to kind of reflect on what our industry is doing and how it can get better, and then pass that along to our producers to make sure that it's happening and what it's going to do for us in the future of agriculture.
And you're going to be at the event and you're going to help plan it as well.
Yes, so I will be helping plan kind of I'm really excited for this one. I get to help kind of each area in the Iowa Pork office, so I'll be doing a lot of different stuff this winter. But yeah, I'm really excited to work with everyone, kind of see every different aspect that Iowa Pork has to make Iowa Pork Congress happen. So yeah, I'll be helping plan and then I'll be there all all of the days. So I'm really excited.
Now, back to the pork industry in general, what are a few important aspects of the pork industry that many people may not know about or should be more widely understood?
Yeah, so kind of like I mentioned earlier with our We Care initiatives, I don't think many people, especially like I said, that don't have agricultural background or any experience, I don't think people understand what goes into the industry. I don't think they understand the money and the hard work and the time that our producers are putting in to create this product that is on their plate every day. So I do think what we're doing with We Care and sharing these stories and sharing them on social media is a great way to kind of educate those people and what it takes to go into the industry, and it's not an easy job, we both know that, but not everybody knows that. Um, we kind of have a closed mind when we think about it because we know the work that it takes and we know the time and money and commitment that it takes because we've been there, but you have to put yourself in the people who'd have no experience. You have to put yourself in their shoes because how are they supposed to know if they've never seen it? So, I think, um just kind of showing the stories is our best way to kind of educate people. Um, Obviously, a very misunderstood one is animal welfare. Um, People think we just abuse and use our animals, but our producers love our animals, and that goes for any species in the industry, whether it be cattle, dairy, swine, whatever. Producers love their animals. That's just we all know that, but they don't, so we have to show that in our social media campaigns, whether it be bringing people onto your own farm to show that. Um, it's just tough kind of reaching the audience that you want, especially because we are all very closed-minded today. If we already have formed an opinion on a topic, then we're probably not gonna be as open to kind of opening our mind up and learning more about it. So, I think what we're doing with We Care is very important in that we are telling the stories of the producers and showing the love that they have for their animals and the compassion that they have for the industry. Um, and also just the whole process of harvesting animals and how we take care of them is also very widely misunderstood. Excuse me. Um, I think just educating social media campaigns, whatever it may be, we have to bridge the gap between those misunderstandings because, like I said, they don't know. They've never seen that. They've never been a part of it. So obviously, there are going to be a lot of misconstrued theories and strategies, whatever it may be, but it's our job to show and kind of bridge the gap between that misunderstanding and our producers.
Everybody at Iowa Pork does a great job. Now, as we continue, as the pork industry evolves, what strategic initiatives or innovations do you believe will be critical for industry leaders to focus on in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so obviously in just the ag industry as a whole, it's constantly changing. So Iowa Pork and in the pork industry as a whole, it's kind of just our job to keep up with that. I mean, obviously, as populations increase, demand will increase as well. So how do we help our producers keep up with that demand and get food on all of these tables? So it's a tricky question because there are a lot of things that maybe we don't expect to happen and they do. It's hard to plan for sure. But like I said, I think the biggest part is getting those consumers to kind of help understand our producers because without that support, our producers aren't going to be able to fill that demand. And I think a big part of that right now is economy. It's obviously getting a little bit better, but in the past few years, the pork industry is struggling, and it's hard to see our producers struggling. We want to help them out as much as we can, and we try to, but at the end of the day, if they can't afford to put food on other people's plates, then they can't. So as far as economy, we definitely want to try and help out our local small producers stay up and running and be able to produce and do what they love. Um, Social media is gonna be a big one. Obviously, the younger generations are always on their phones, always on social media, and like I said, the younger generation is our target audience right now. If we don't reach them, we're not gonna need to sell as much pork because my generation does not know a whole lot about pork. They usually just buy whatever's at the restaurants, at the grocery stores. Um, so getting that consumerism out there on social media is gonna be a huge thing, just educating them about the pork industry, why they should eat pork, which we're already doing right now, but it needs to be tenfold, you know? Um, we have to reach our target audiences a little harder, and social media is gonna be a huge aspect in that, especially when we're trying to reach nationwide. We can't just do that within Iowa, so social media is gonna be huge. And then with activist groups, I think they're always gonna be a problem. They are a huge problem with students and kids my age. We are very easily manipulated. We believe what we see on the internet. And so if we are seeing posts in social media from PETA or other activist groups, whoever it may be, over Iowa pork showing a consumer story, we are probably gonna believe that over it. And so kind of trying to reach activist groups, and obviously they're very close-minded as well and getting new opinions, and um but trying to kind of overcome the activist groups on social media and at events and whatever it may be. It's kind of our job to set the story straight and stand up for our producers. And then lastly, I feel like as far as laws put in place for producers, obviously right now we're facing Prop 12, the Farm Bill. Um, that's gonna be a huge thing as well because at the end of the day, if there are laws put in place, there's nothing we can do about it. So that's gonna be another big one. And we have a lot of people fighting for our producers in Washington right now. I know we had some board members from Iowa Pork and some board members from National Pork Board go up to Washington and talk about the Farm Bill and how it would produce or affect producers. Um, so yeah, it's just we're it's going to be continuing to do what we're doing right now, but at a higher level. It's going to take a lot more than what we're doing right now, I think, and especially as time goes on. Um, we're gonna have to work really, really hard to get to our target audience and overcome all of the challenges facing the pork industry today.
Keep up the great work, Lauren. Thanks for joining us on Up and Comers in the Pork Industry.
Thank you, Jim.